I had hired the firm Bebetveyua, a small operation, 2 directors, a rotating cast of subcontractors, to manage a ground floor extension on my property. Kitchen and dining room knocked through, rear extension added, full refit. The quote was £41,000. I paid a 30% deposit up front, as agreed, and staged payments tied to completion milestones. The first milestone payment I made was for the structural work: steel beams, groundwork, roof to weather. It looked right on the surface. I am not a builder. I trusted the inspection, and I made the payment. The second milestone payment was for first fix: electrics, plumbing, studwork framing. I had an architect friend look at progress photographs. He said some of the studwork framing looked lightweight for the span, but he wasn't a structural engineer and couldn't be certain. After the second payment, £48,000 in total, the calls started going to voicemail. At first I assumed delays. Building projects always have delays. Then 3 days of voicemail became a week. Then the site, when I visited, was empty. Not paused for the weekend, empty. Cleared. Tools gone, materials gone, no note, no communication. I called the second director. His number was disconnected. I stood in my half-finished extension in the January cold and understood what had happened. I did several things in the first week. Some useful, some driven by the particular fury of a person who has been comprehensively deceived and needs to feel like they're doing something. The useful things: I appointed a structural engineer to assess the work that had been completed. I instructed a solicitor. I reported the directors to action fraud and provided full documentation. I filed a claim in the county court for recovery of the funds paid against milestones that had not been properly completed. The structural engineer's report was not good. The beam specification was undersized for the span. The groundwork drainage had not been installed to building regulations standard. The electrical first fix contained several non-compliant installations that would need to be ripped out and redone. Approximately £14,000 of the 48 I had paid had produced work that was either substandard or would need to be entirely redone. The 2 directors had dissolved the company 4 days after receiving my second milestone payment. The company had no assets and no insurance. They had allowed their public liability cover to lapse 8 months earlier. But the directors were individuals, and individuals, unlike dissolved companies, do not disappear behind a corporate veil when their conduct amounts to fraud. My solicitor filed the claim against the directors personally rather than the company. This was possible because the company had been dissolved in circumstances that appeared designed to avoid liability following the receipt of funds, which opened the directors to personal liability under the Insolvency Act. While the legal process moved, I did the research. Both directors were active on social media. Both had other business interests. One had a second limited company in his wife's name that appeared to be trading. I passed this information to my solicitor and to the Insolvency Service, which investigates directors whose conduct in relation to dissolved companies raises public interest concerns. The second company, when scrutinized, had several of my former contractor's previous clients as creditors. He had done this before. The Insolvency Service opened an investigation. The county court judgment came first. Both directors personally for the full amount claimed plus costs. With a judgment in hand, I could apply for enforcement mechanisms, an attachment of earnings order against their personal income, a charging order against any property they owned. One director owned a property. We registered the charging order. The Insolvency Service investigation concluded 15 months after I'd reported them. Both directors were disqualified from acting as company directors for periods of 7 and 9 years respectively. The second company, the one in the wife's name, was investigated separately and wound up by the court. I recovered 21,000 of the 32 I had lost. Not everything. Enforcement is never perfect when the people you're chasing are determined not to pay. But 21,000 from a dissolved company run by men who thought they had made themselves untouchable is not nothing. They cannot act as directors again until 2032 and 2034 respectively. I finished the extension with a reputable firm. It took 4 more months and another £26,000. The work is excellent. The kitchen is everything we planned it would be. If you're hiring a contractor for significant work, check their insurance is current, check their company accounts on Companies House, and never pay a deposit larger than 10%. Has a contractor or tradesperson ever disappeared with your money? Drop it in the comments. And if you want more complete stories with no part 2s that never come, follow the page. New story every day.